Hey there, and welcome back to another video guide. Today is unfortunately not the budget version that everyone has been asking me about for the Omnistack, but I did want to give some updates because I posted the last video, the V2, and I was doing some scrolling and I'm looking at Grip of Kulemak, and then I found this combo with Spirit Reservation Efficiency and plus 25 to Spirit. And I don't know why it didn't trigger in my mind earlier, but I knew this was a combo from previous leagues. I just didn't have one this league. And I bought it, and I was able to just squeeze in all the spirit we need while where we don't need an Against the Darkness anymore. So this is actually cheaper than the V2 because we fully removed the ATD, and the ATD itself is like half a mirror to a mirror. So the downside is that if you were running the V2 without a Spirit Vertex, then you do have to get one of those. But it was a recommendation from the original V2 anyway to get a Spirit Vertex. It helps with the whole Spirit costs for the build anyway, and saves points. We still have to use a Solar Amulet to get our Spirit, but overall, we only need 209 Spirit now. And you might say, glitched, but you were using like 258 before. How are we down to 209? And that's because we dropped Mana Remnants. So we were able to drop Mana Remnants by going with a Recover Mana on Kill on a ring. You can also get this on just a Sapphire. You can get this on a Sapphire. I don't have one, but you can get this on a Sapphire. It does replace one of the crit damage nodes, so I don't particularly like that. You can also get it on a Heart of the Well, and again, you'd be replacing your crit damage node. So you would want gain Life Leech is instant, skill mana cost conversion, and then gain mana on kill is a good option as well instead of crit damage. Crit damage is very strong for the build, so I actually opted to get it on the ring where your suffix is just going to be res. Int or res, which are, in my opinion, less impactful than just getting straight crit damage bonus. So that's the route I personally went, is to get it on the ring. I am still, capped Ellie res, but again, you'd be able to maybe get Cold and Chaos res together, buff up both of the res, since I have to use Cold res Ruins on my boots, so I could have done something like that instead, and just gotten it on the Heart of the Well. Anyway, that's one option. Just giving some options there. So we dropped the Seed of Cataclysm, and we are going now with a Grip of Kulemak, specifically for the Spirit. This one is actually a very nice one that P-Dubs dropped and traded me. And this one comes with cast speed per Spirit, and spell skills have increased area of effect. I also have another one that I purchased with critical damage bonus. Hits against you have reduced critical damage bonus, Spirit Reservation, and Spirit if you have at least 200 int. You can also go with if you have at least 200 strength and just shift points from int to strength. Keep in mind it starts getting really tight because you do need to have a minimum of, if I remember correctly, 157 int in the build. So it does get very tight. Like here, if I switched over 80 int, I would not actually have enough int to run the build. So you would have to get int either on Peace or on Jewels, and that's where that extra line can come in. You can put in like 33 int here. There's also some other things that we can do with the tree. So, I mean, I kept my int and strength to very much just breakpoints. But if you need more int for one more point here, like I kept this 1 point here because I needed the extra mana. But I can just respec some points and get that int, that 25 int from Ingenuity. So, there is that as well that you can do. Now, obviously, the tree has changed a lot. We still, unfortunately, have to go for Blood Transfusion, as well as Mind Over Matter. This is to get our conversion, and then because we're spending most of our life bar every second, the Mind Over Matter is effectively creating the mana as our health pool. I personally went for Storm Charge, but this is one of the optional skills. In the Mobalytics guide, I have a whole list of the optional skills to use your last 8 points on. So this is 3 of my optional skills right here. Obviously, the Jewel Socket is important, and you'll notice that we spec through the top of the tree instead of through the middle. The main difference here is that it makes dynamism very far, but it does give us faster access to Endless Blizzard and Glaciation. It does also cost 2 extra points of pathing versus the previous tree, so that we can be in better range of these skills. And this is where we get Endless Blizzard, and now instead of using it on a Megalo, now I have level 40 Comet straight out. So we have Utrids, we don't need Dialas, we don't need Endless Blizzard on a Megalo, we just have it outright. Then, instead of, again, since we're not specking through the middle, I take these mana regen nodes, and we take our EB tree, as I call it. I take controlling magic. I do like the idea of being crit less. This actually brings me to, like, pretty much the perfect crit chance, specking through here. So this is a lot of crit damage bonus here, and this is a nice, slightly defensive, while still being offensive node for 4 points while we're specking through here. Now, here's the big difference. I had originally started by going with a Metamorphosis here. And with a Metamorphosis, you can grab both Tempered Mind and I believe it was Energize in the same one. But then somebody in stream said, glitch, why not do the ATD tech? Or not the ATD tech, the Time Loss tech. And I'm like, you know what? we can do it. And I tried it, and it does give me more damage. It does take more point investment. It is a lot more expensive, too, because a time loss like this would run you 400 plus divines. But you can then, while a Metamorphosis costs like 5 divines on a perfect roll, so, you know, there is that. But it did end up giving me more damage in this way, but also takes more points. So some things that you can do if you didn't do this tech is that you could then still get Dynamism. You could spec to this Jewel Socket here. And yeah, there's a few other things. Acceleration. This is one of the optional ones that you can take. And then you can take more points in this double diamond cluster. But overall, I switched to the ATD tech, or not the ATD tech, the time loss tech. And now picked up all of these nodes. So we have a From Nothing with Conduit. This allows us to take just the notables. And then we have the time loss with notables give crit damage. So we have 20% crit damage per notable, as well as 1% increased mana. You can also get increased life. Both of them work. Depends on where your priorities lie. And which one can give you better breakpoints. So I just had mana. I also took Invocated Efficiency. This is one of the optional nodes as well. But again, now that it's in the range, I did not like Invocated Efficiency originally. But now that it's in range of the Time Lost Sapphire, now it's a lot of damage. So I did end up taking it now, but before I wasn't a big fan of it. But with this Time Lost, it is very nice. As shown before, we no longer use an Against the Darkness here, so we save all of these points. So before I was using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 points just on Spirit, and one of the recommendations was depending on how much Spirit you had on the rest of the gear, you would most likely have to also take Chakra of Life, which would be 14 points. That being said, Dizzying Hits and Stupefy are not exactly bad nodes, and neither is Chakra of Life with maximum life, and then you can also get some recoup here as well. So they weren't exactly bad nodes. Howling Primate also had 20 int, so it buffed up your int, which means more mana. So, and then obviously an ATD meant that if you had a good ATD, you had gain as lightning, or cold, or fire, or chaos, whichever you got, or even res, helped the res cap if you had a cheaper ATD. So, it's not like this was a bad thing either, but it was also increasing the cost of the build a lot too. Because the ATD skyrocketed in price. So, this was one of the options to really reduce the cost of the build, is get a Grip of Kulemak. They were like a couple hundred divs. If you get one with strength on it instead, they are like double-digit divines for a good one. They were very cheap the last I checked. The thing is, I did talk about it on stream a couple nights ago, and I think a bunch of them were getting sniped right after I talked about it. So if you aren't attending the streams, I apologize, but it might be a little worse on the market right now. So, yeah, this is the new tree. We are still keeping our sudden escalation. Now, one thing that people do ask, and I do see spec a lot, is Sacrificial Blood. increased life cost of skills. So while normally you would say like for 40 points you get 52%, sorry, 2 points, you get 52% damage, increased damage. This is pretty cost effective in terms of points. I don't like this because life cost of skills get really expensive. My Spark now costs just about 1200 life, and this is with a rare pair of gloves, with increased effective socketed items, and Tech Rod's Gaze, giving me 40% life cost efficiency. We are still spending 1200 life per Spark, and almost 1900 life per comet that drops. And we drop a lot of comets. So it has become very rough. I explicitly don't spec this and do not recommend specing this. If you had 2 extra points and this did not give you a breakpoint or something, breaking point itself would be a very nice node because magnitude is a big scaler of damage with shock. So that's pretty much the update to the build. I will have just a clip of me running Temple and 6-man, as well as Arbiter Kill, Uber Arbiter Kill at the end. But I'll just do maybe a map, a show. Whoops. Scrolling Atlas. I love scrolling through my Atlas to find out where I was before. Okay, so I was probably around here. We could do a Citadel. I will grab some tablets. As you can see, we are generating a lot of comets. But as I just mentioned, if you are spending an extra 300 to 400 life per comet, it really starts adding up. The other thing to note too is that without mana remnants overflowing our mana, we are a little bit squishier than the previous version. I did die a couple times yesterday in Temple, but generally most of the time it's Detonate Dead, which does thousands and thousands and thousands of damage. So unfortunately, didn't really... I've never found a way to really resolve that because the HP pool of the enemies is so high that... I'll take out my Headhunter buffs here. HP pools of the enemies are so high that there's not much we can do. The Detonate Dead hits so hard that it just kind of sucks. So yeah, that's what it looks like. The other thing that you can also do is you can also wear a Temporalis with this build. Somebody is borrowing my Temporalis. The main thing to consider is that when you don't have your when you have a Temporalis on, you're not going to have full conversion on your skills. So you can see here that it's still going to take mana, which means that obviously, you know, you cast a few times and you're out of mana. That goes for Comet too. What you will end up having to do if you do this route is that you will need to life tap your skills. So you can put something like an Adaluis in your Spark instead of whichever one you choose. For example, Deliberation, and then life tap instead of in your Cast on Crit. And then so you see I still have a level 39 Comet, a level 38 Blink, a level 39 Spark, and we can really just push, push, push. And again, I don't even have a chess piece in for extra damage or anything like that, and we still are reaching about 1 million Spark damage. And that's about it. So, in terms of... in terms of our damage, it went up significantly. I would say it went up around 50 to 100% damage since the V2 with these changes. Comet was a big winner. Even with an Adorned setup, a Magic Adorned, not a Rare Adorned, I was able to push around 2.3 with Spell Cascade. The Spell Cascade is just giving us a lot more Comets. I would not actually recommend it. We would have Concentrated Area, and we would be hitting about 8.3 million per Comet uninfused. Another option is also go Living Bomb instead of a second Comet. I do a lot of Temple, and Living Bomb is absolutely useless in Temple because I'm not going to go around picking up infusions. So double Comet is just great. Spark, Deliberation, considered casting projectile, acceleration 3 gives us a lot of damage. Generally for Temple, I like going this with Embitter, Valentis Propulsion, and Pierce. Pierce is just generally good for having more mobs. Valentis Propulsion gets us more coverage because the sparks fly faster. And then we also go Embitter. And the reason for Embitter is that the extra damage that we gain from the Wand, the Heart of the Well, and Archmage now gets converted to cold damage. And now we deal a lot of cold damage. This pairs well with getting cold penetration on Jewels. So we have penetrate cold damage on Jewel, and as well as glaciation with cold pen. So you can see that we do have a good amount of cold penetration at 45%. This helps a lot with Temple, because with most of the rare mobs having like 8 to 10 modifiers on them, you'll find that you get a lot of Ellie res, aura, plus cold res, and things like that. So getting some penetration is quite nice into the build. So I have some cold pen, and then with Embitter, now my sparks deal primarily cold. You could go Rakiatas and just skip building cold pen, but then what I found is that my Comets actually just feel like wet noodles, because if a mob has 50 res, then now suddenly your spark will deal a lot more, but it's actually the Comet that's the big driver of your damage. So if you don't build any cold pen, then now you just have Comets that deal very little. So there is that to consider as well. Comet does get a lot of lightning damage too because of Archmage, so it is also a consideration as well to build also lightning pen. The thing is, you can't get it on a Sapphire, at least not reliably. So the only ways that you're really going to get lightning pen would be like the general elemental penetrations here, which are actually quite strong. And then you also have electric amplification. But this takes 6 points, and to me, it's very far for what it is. So that's the downside to trying to build lightning pen into the build. We do have Exposed to the Storm as well, but we're not going to generally be applying exposure to the general enemies around. So there is things like that as well to consider. Heavy Frost is another option. Hits ignore non-negative elemental resistances of frozen enemies, but we're honestly reaching a point where we're dealing so much damage that you just kill before you even have a chance to freeze. So it kind of becomes pointless again to try and do that. It is an option, but I honestly just preferred going in bitter on the Spark, getting some more cold damage, which gives us some more cold damage on Spark, as well as Comet's just innate cold damage will help punch through some high-res enemies in that fashion with just building some general cold pen. We also do have these small nodes as well that we could spec through. Keep in mind it would cost you 1 extra point if you wanted to spec through the right side. So you could spend 1 extra point. Like, for example, if I had just a little bit more mana, I could take this 1 point out and spec through the right here and get 12% more cold pen instead of taking the middle node here, for 12% cold damage. So yep, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I will see if I should have a clip of Arbiter, so I'll just slam that at the end of this video. 6-man Uber Arbiter with this build, as well as some temple farming that we did last night. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for a budget version, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Of the flip.
Oh shit, are we gonna talk about this on stream?
There wait, oh
My
shit.
knives?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Spirit, nice.
I forgot that you're streaming.
Oh, yeah.
We're all
I wanted to
streaming,
ask you
yeah,
about
I'm
that
streaming
too.
We'll talk about it after, okay, guys? Talk about it tomorrow. Private.
You mean what I've talked about on stream today?
I don't know.
I think it was yesterday.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's yesterday now.
Can you get
Is it
limbs from
like-
other people's temples? No. Have to be your own temple, which is really annoying.
Died again.
Rip. Oh.
Without getting into details, is it true?
Oh yeah, yeah.